And now I want to talk about, this is the last thing. The last one is forgiveness. We can hold grudges for all kinds of things, big and small. Some are petty, some are horrific things that have happened to us. And carrying those feelings of anger and resentment can have a negative impact on our well-being, because we can be preoccupied with that past hurt, and we can only see our future through the filter of that past hurt. And that hurts our future. Forgiveness, a little bit I am guilty of it as well, and I'm going to talk about that one in a minute, about mine. But forgiveness opens new possibilities for the future that were held captive by the memory of this wrongdoing. And it can help, forgiveness can help heal our relationships, and it can open the possibility for reconciliation if desired. But if nothing else, it opens new possibilities for your future that you've been letting unforgiveness hold captive, because you keep getting stuck in that past memory and you're not focusing on what could be good in the future. And this Happiness Lab, another Happiness Lab podcast called The Happiness Lessons of the Ancients. And this is forgiveness. And this is actually, they have a theology branch in Yale. And so she was talking to one of the professors of theology at Yale about forgiveness. And he's showing that research shows scientific benefits of forgiveness. You can have reduced cardiac arrest. You get better sleep. You have less fatigue, of course, as a result of that. Your immune function is improved. You get less depression, less anger, and you get increased hope and compassion and self-confidence when you forgive. And why do you think it's so hard to forgive?
Maybe at the first, like, for example, me, there was the person that betrayed me, and I had a lot of, I needed to have a lot of time, a lot of months to really forgive him. Because when this happened, I couldn't, because of all the emotion with all the thing happening. It was very, very horrible. But then it's only a few months ago that I could really, really be able to forgive him.
Why do you think you were able to finally?
Because like, when you're not forgiving to someone, you always think at one time, intentionally or not, about him or her. And obviously this can lead to thinking about what he or he does to you, and blah 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 blah, and that's kind of the vicious cycle, the vicious cycle. But when you forgive, you know it's done, and it's really, it lets you free of a lot of stuff, especially like you're more chill. You're more chill because you don't, you know you're not gonna think again about him. Like your mind is very more, she can breathe again.
Yeah.
Because he was pressured with all the stuff happening. Because if you keep all the thing inside you, and if you don't move around, it's gonna kind of ruin your life as long as you keep it. Because you're not gonna be the real you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because all this all this stuff that stay with you is gonna stay with you and make your day kind of not that well as you expect it to be. But when all this is gone, you can really live your life, maybe not like before, but at least you can live good. Very good.
Yeah. So a little bit says, I struggle forgiving because they hurt me. They will just do it again. I will seem weak, like they can walk all over me. But I find myself wanting to get back at them. And I know that's wrong and revenge is the Lord's. So it takes a while, but I do end up forgiving. Yeah, it's very difficult. And there's this misconception that knowing is half the battle. Again, it takes a lot of effort. And we also have misunderstandings about what forgiveness really means. And forgiveness is not saying what's done is done was okay or no big deal. And it's not like you're accidentally bumping into someone and saying, no big deal. These are things that have hurt us. These are especially the greater offenses. Now, some people can be unforgiving about really petty things, but we're talking about, and that you just get over it. But we're talking about really hurtful things here and these greater offenses. So forgiveness is not saying, okay, it wasn't a big deal, and it's not saying that you're going to, forgiveness is different than trust too, first of all. Forgiveness is not saying, okay, I'm going to let you back in my life to do this again. You don't want that. That's not the same as, that's not what forgiveness is. It's not forgive and forget. You need to recognize the wrongdoing, because that is a fundamental to forgiveness, is to recognize that what happened was very hurtful. It was wrong. And it can't be simply disregarded. That can result in injustice. We need forgiveness because the deed can't be undone. And it's not a one-time, one-and-done deal either. As your memories keep resurfacing, you have to keep doing it. And it can be really messy. And it's more of a practice. And also, you have to forgive ourselves for what happened. We have to forgive ourselves and stop casting blame on ourselves. Even if we've been a victim of someone else, we can often blame ourselves for letting it happen. And we need to be able to forgive ourselves too for that. Forgiveness has a structure. And this professor at Yale said it has the structure of a gift. Someone gives something to someone else. And the giver is the offended, the person who was hurt. And the receiver is the offender, the one who did the hurting. And what we're giving is forgiveness. It means not counting the wrongdoing a person has done against the person. You're separating and unsticking the deed, the thing that was done wrong, from the doer. And that's how Jesus forgives us. He says he separated our sins as far as the east is from the west. Little bit says it's harder to forgive ourselves than others. It's very true. And this forgiveness is not easy. It's not something that we can do on our own. Psalms 103:12 says, he has removed our wrongdoings as far as from us as the east is from the west. That's how he forgives us. He's separating us from our wrongdoings. He's not forgetting our wrongdoings, but he's separating those things from us so that he can continue to love us and help us. But that doesn't mean he's going to leave us where we are. He still wants that work to improve ourselves so we don't do that again. And so we don't want to fool ourselves into thinking, yeah, forgiving is just going to means letting them do it again. That's not what that means. It's complicated. It's difficult. We can't do it by ourselves. Leviticus 19:18 says, forget about the wrong things people do to you. Don't try to get even. Love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Matthew 18:21-22 says, then Peter came to him and asked, Lord, how often should I forgive someone who sins against me? 7 times? And Jesus replied, no, not 7 times, but 70 times 7. And what that means is there was this tradition in the Jewish society saying that you can forgive someone up to 3 times and then That's it. But so when Peter said 7 times, he was trying to be generous. But Jesus was saying, nope, you just keep forgiving. That's not easy. Not easy at all. Colossians 3:13 through 15 says, bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you are called to peace, and be thankful. And Ephesians 4:2 through 3 says, be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. And that's freeing for the one who forgives, like Yes was saying earlier. It helps us transcend this deep sorrow and this inner rage, and it helps to move on, to no longer be stuck in that past. And then that can open us up to the path of healing. And for myself, something happened to me on the bad end of the spectrum of, it wasn't petty, it was bad. And over 10 years, I was stuck, unable to forgive. And these feelings kept eating at me, and it kept me from healing. And I kept trying on my own strength to forgive the person. And every time I tried to forgive them, memories kept resurfacing. And then that anger and that resentment would come back, and it was impossible for me to do on my own. And then I prayed to God, I'm willing to forgive, but I can't. Help me to forgive a little bit. That's what I'm talking about here. Help me to forgive. It wasn't instant. It took several months after that prayer. And I heard a podcast on forgiveness. It's different than the sermons that I was used to that just gloss over it and pretend it's easy for Christians to do. It's not. The pastors actually in this one spoke about God seeing us as the forgiven and the redeemed person that he knows that we can be, and the potential that's in us through his eyes of love. That's how he sees us, and that's how he's able to forgive us. So instead of just seeing us as the person we are and the things that we've done in the past, it's this whole shift of perspective, seeing us through those eyes of love as the forgiven and redeemed person he knows we can be. And so I mulled that over for several more months. And I have mentioned before that God speaks to us through all kinds of things. We just have to pay attention and listen. So I was reading this manga called Naruto, and there were these 2 childhood friends that were like brothers, Naruto and Sasuke. And Sasuke became angry and vengeful after something really bad happened. And I'm trying not to give spoilers to people who don't know the story. But vengeance led him to do really bad things in return. And Naruto never gave up on him. And for most of the story, I thought that Naruto was just stuck in the past. He was the one stuck in the past, only seeing the childhood friend refusing to see the truth of who he had become. But towards the end of the manga, during this epic battle, it finally clicked with me that he wasn't just stuck in the past. He was looking at Sasuke as the person he knew he could be. And that's how he was able to keep forgiving regardless of what Sasuke did. And then I asked God to help me see this person, how he sees this person that I had trouble forgiving, and he did. And oh, the things that God can do with someone like that who has been redeemed and forgiven. And for a while, the memories did keep resurfacing, and they do still sometimes. That I had to stop and remind myself that I chose to forgive. And I was actually able to let go of that anger and begin healing. And it doesn't mean that I trust the person or I want them back in my life. It is still unsafe. You don't want that. It means that I've moved past it so they can't keep hurting me all these years later. And so now we have a second homework assignment. Think of one person that you've been unable to forgive, if there is someone. and spend at least 5 minutes every day asking God to help you see them the way he sees them, and ask him to give you the strength to forgive them, because again, we can't do it on our own. And I'll put these homework challenges in the Discord as well. So this week we have a daily, that's March 27th through April 2nd. We have a daily gratitude journal. Spend at least 5 minutes each night to write down and think about 5 things for which you're grateful. And then the following week, April 3rd through 9th, is think of one person that you've been unable to forgive, and then spend at least 5 minutes every day asking God to give you the strength to forgive them. And it's possible that that person might be yourself, if there's not someone else that you can think of. Is there something you can't forgive yourself for? And then the next session is in 2 weeks, and we will continue going over practical ways to foster better mental health. Then did anyone else have anything more to say?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, we need to think about the fact that forgiving someone, if you already want to forgive someone, it's already a success in in a way.
Mm.
But it's not gonna be like just like you clap your finger,
Yeah.
like a finger clap.
Mm-hmm.
If we need to think about the fact that it can take a lot of time.
Yeah.
But the longer the time can be, maybe the better the forgiveness can be also. Because if you want to forgive right now, well, like, it's not like I don't want you to forgive right now. You can, obviously, but like, you really need to think about the whole stuff, because it's not something as you told, like, hey, sorry, I just bumped you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's really a huge thing. And if it's like makes you hungry about that person, or disappointing him, or maybe you have some bad emotion towards this person, that's because it's a serious thing, but not a short-term emotion, a long-term one. And that's why, even if it's hard, you need to forgive, because obviously it's not very um, easy to forgive someone that makes you hurt,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. It's worth it for yourself too. Yeah. Definitely for
Yeah.
yourself. And imagine all the things we've done against God that he's forgiven us for. What right do we
A lot
have
of
to not
stuff.
forgive anyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah. But even that
That's a good example.
wasn't helping me forgive. I knew it, but it wasn't helping me. So it took a long time. Yeah. Yeah. All the broken bargains. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.